So I want to talk to you today about something that's really important to me, and it's been on my heart for a long time. And since voting is just around the corner, I thought it's the perfect time to give it a whirl. And that is the battle of individual versus national identity. In America of the past, there was a great balance between who we were as individuals and what we shared as a nation. We're all different, a melting pot of nationalities that have come together to call this place home. Our own personal beliefs and how we fit in with the group make up who we are as Americans. Understanding the power of us in the United States helps us understand the ongoing fight between what's best for ourselves and what's best for the country.
Welcome to Epic Mom Life. I am your host, Kara Peterson. This show is sponsored by The Possum's Tale, a unique book adventure for your 6 to 12-year-old child. Let's jump into today's show.
And now it feels like we've shifted, putting individual rights ahead of what's best for the nation as a whole. We're splintered. The American dream has long been touted as a sacred right that each individual has the ability to work hard to attain. Individualism is a cornerstone of the American identity, celebrating each person's culture and unique thoughts and traditions. The problem is that as we navigate the complexities of the modern world we find ourselves in, this individual identity is in opposition to a collective spirit of nationalism. I love that the United States has the word US, us, in it. I am a collaborative thinker. I believe that there is very little America and the American people cannot do if we are united in our efforts. The problem is we are not united. We are splintered. I do not know that we have truly been united as a country since World War II and 9/11. If you look at these times, and it is important to note, we had a common outside enemy that every American was against. In times of crisis and conflict, patriotism or fear often become a rallying cry that unites individuals to create a shared sense of purpose. And yet, we just had COVID, and COVID was exactly this, an outside common enemy that we all needed to face. And if you recall, we did unite in the beginning. It was flat out amazing. I had a nonprofit on kindness, and at the time, I was searching actively for goodness in our communities. When COVID first came, we had a lot of fear because there was so much that was unknown. People of all ages, ethnicities, and incomes were dying. Businesses were closing or on the brink due to mandatory shutdowns or shut-ins that disabled shoppers from visiting. And still, we banded together. We were an us. In a time when we pull into our driveways and shut the garage door, never saying hi to anyone, we reached out to our neighbors to ask if they needed anything and if they were okay. There were messages in chalk on sidewalks in front of businesses and homes to encourage and show support. We cared about each other. This was all going on. This was all over the social media. This was all in the news. There was positive. And then everything abruptly changed. May 25th, 2020. Our society became irreparably splintered after the death of George Floyd. Every single thing after that became a line drawn in the sand. We no longer recognized that we were fighting common fears. Masks, vaccines, injustice, the list goes on and on. Does not matter which side you are on. In the end, it came down to fear. Personal freedoms. Now we are fighting against each other and among ourselves. We are no longer Americans in the spirit of nationalism. We are Republicans or Democrats, Black Americans, white, Christians, agnostics, etc., etc. Everybody has a label that they identify themselves under. They have an identity, but it is an individual, and not one says, oh, I identify as an American. We try to further the betterment of one agenda, that individual agenda, rather than what is good for Americans and the country overall. We have forgotten that we are strong, united, but in our division, we can fall, and we can fall really, really hard. The challenge is in embracing both, honoring the individual traditions and cultures while nurturing a strong and cohesive national identity. The key is to finding common ground in our differences rather than allowing them to divide us. I'm so sure that many of you are rolling your eyes or even snickering. We are in a contentious time in our political history. How can we possibly find common ground in our differences? The nonprofit I had that I mentioned before, it was actually called Kind Defined. The entire point, the whole reason for its existence, was to bridge the gap between people and find common ground and respect in our differences. Note, I did not say that you should agree with the way people think or like the way they think, but you should respect others and try to find common ground always. I truly fear for our country's fate, and that if we continue the way we are going, we will self-destruct. So, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I am going to address a contentious political point and show you it is possible, even in the most awful situation, to find common ground. Abortion. Yeah, I said it. And yet, this is probably one of the most fought over and emotional issues that there is. However, I can actually find common ground. Both sides fear death. Pro-choice, fear the death of a life lived. The mother, having to have the child, will have to sacrifice many other choices and give up many opportunities she may otherwise have had. Pro-life, fear the death of a life lived. The child will not have an opportunity to live out their life and their opportunities. Not the child will have their choices taken away from them. And yes, I get it. You have so many arguments for what I just said. And that was just so small. It just scratched the surface of what was there. I see the arguments to these statements for both sides. I know there's so much more. There are always arguments. We as an American public seem to get lost in and enjoy our arguments just for the joy of fighting. But that's part of the problem. Both sides fear the death or serious altercation of a life lived. Can we just leave it there? We found common ground and go on to something else so that we can remain respectful of each other and we can find something else that we can go on to. Why do we have to keep arguing and fighting and creating division when what we need is we need unity within? We don't have to say, oh, I'm going to go to your side or you're going to go to my side, but we also don't have to try to convince each other. We can just move on to something else. So you ask, is it really that difficult to create a vibrant community where every voice matters without sacrificing the essence of what it means to be part of something bigger than our individuality? Yeah, it really is that hard. I have heard so many people say, well, this country does it, or that country does not have these problems. Yeah, well, America is defined by its very diversity. We are proud of the myriad of cultures, ethnicities, and beliefs that we have. We encourage all of these different beliefs, all of these different religions, all of these different cultures. We have a country that's established on the idea of immigration in one form or another. This could be colonization, melting pot, Ellis Island, etc. But in the end, America was created It was not formed from its natives, but it was created from the immigrants and the people that came from anywhere and everywhere. And this continues today. So yes, this is very hard because we have a lot of people from anywhere and everywhere. And they bring with them their values, traditions, religion, and ideas that are very important to them. It is really difficult to have all of these people from all of these different perspectives come together and find a common good for our nation. I think that it is something we have to remember. We may all want a strong, just, and good America, but we also may all have very different ideas about what that actually means or how to get there. A universal goal of everyone, that common ground I was talking about, should be a concept of unity in diversity and to maintain a power and strength in a collective identity. That collective identity needs to be inclusive of all Americans, not individuals. I don't think we should name all the individuals because that's not who we are being collective of. We're being collective of Americans. We need to join as Americans, and we need to unite and relish our identity as part of the whole. We all have our unique thoughts and beliefs, but it is also important to remember that we are all part of something really great and something bigger. Our country, the United States, is a place where we can be ourselves, but also feel connected to others. When we feel like we belong, it helps us to build a stronger and more inclusive society. So while valuing our freedom is important, recognizing what unites us can help us create a better future for everyone. The kids' quote for this week: "We'll make it in America." Fievel Mouskowitz in an American Tale. Fievel Goes West.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to send you a huge thank you. Please leave me a comment or review and share with other moms you know. Get in touch in the comments or on Kara's social media networks. See you next week for a new episode.